It's very rare that we've had problem children Zimbabweans playing in our league. And I can tell you 100% for sure, like Zambian players, for example, very well known in South African football, heavy drinkers. When footballers come from Zambia, we know we have to watch the drinking because there's a culture of drinking that comes with Zambian footballers. So when we come to Zimbabwe footballers, the brand is good. The work ethic is good. The character is good. The value system is very similar to South Africans. This third point, you heard me with the minister speak about stadiums, because the truth is it's a fundamental building block of your product. And if you want to have more games, if you want to have more matches broadcast, we need to have at least 1 or 2 stadiums. What I was trying to push with the minister, in some other places in Africa where we have at least 2 within a country quality stadiums where we can have 2 matches on a Saturday and 2 matches on a Sunday, suddenly we're churning out 4 matches a weekend instead of 2 matches a weekend, double the output. So if you had good stadiums that clubs could play at, even on a centralized basis, we could definitely increase the number of matches broadcast. And on that subject, Kennedy, for example, and it came through very strong with this minister, Mrs. Coventry, that she's anti-corruption, that corporate Zimbabwe is suspicious or reluctant to put money into football. Now, we have to own that because it belongs to us. Right now, that's brand Zimbabwe football. It's been put in a corner to say, problem child. Only we can change that perception. And that's why, you know, I hear the chairman, and the chairman is politically strong, and the chairman is there to fight for his constituents, and you all heard the chairman ask the minister 3 times for please some little grant or something to be distributed equally amongst all the teams. Everyone heard that, right? He tried 3 times. And I'm telling you, the minister was sitting here, and what she didn't hear, his 3 appeals for equal money to all the teams, a little bit of a grant. She didn't hear that. She heard, okay, money going to corrupt people, unaccounted for. How am I going to explain this to Treasury? All right, put it in writing and I'll let you down later. Okay? And what I'm saying to you is, if I was going to the minister, which I'll obviously have my chat with the chairman, but as clubs, as people, as an industry, if I'm going to the minister to ask for something, I'm going to go and ask her for specific expenditure in areas that you can show the invoice, where you can show the accountability, you can show the transparency, but areas that empower then you, as Zimbabwe football, to make money. So I wouldn't ask the minister, for example, for, I'm just making up numbers. Let's say I wouldn't ask the minister for $18,000 for each club to get a $1,000 grant. But I would ask the minister to help make perimeter board signage for all the clubs for TV games. Because you can give her the invoice that shows the production of 40 signs or LED boards or whatever it's going to be. She can see it, she can measure it, she can see that it wasn't stolen, she can see what the price was, she can account for her money to Treasury. What do you get left with? You get left with 40 sign boards that you can sell at every single one of your matches, live and non-live. The ones that are televised and the ones that are not televised. You get perimeter board branding, which you can offer value to existing sponsors and new sponsors. But as a league, you need to know what's your rights package. If I ask Kennedy, how many signs does Castle get at a match, of a Castle Premiership match? How many signboards do they get around the stadium? How many are they entitled to? 8. And the other Because you're going to say there's no other.
The third party that is contracted to supply.
The advertising boards on behalf of all the clubs.
No, on behalf of the stadium owner.
So here comes back to the problem I was talking about earlier. That you can't sell anything reliably when someone else owns your rights. If you don't have a clean stadia or stadia where you have rights that are legally enforceable, you can't sell anything to anybody. Because you can have Coca-Cola as a sponsor, and I'm the municipality. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go and sell the signage to Pepsi. And not 1 cent is coming back to football. Not a cent. So until Zimbabwe football controls its own rights, that you have the rights of the stadium that you play in, I would never kick another ball in such a stadium. And let me tell you that Uganda, the entire league closed down over this issue. Because municipality came and took the stadium rights and sold the stadium rights to all sponsors who weren't sponsors of Ugandan Premier League. Easiest ambush marketing in the world. What was the end product? No professional football in Uganda. Because companies said, cheers, we can't put money into you, and your municipality goes and sells to our rivals. So unless you tackle this issue of what rights you have in your stadium, where your matches that are your broadcast product, your content, your matches, your clubs, your signage, you have to have those rights in the stadium, guys. If you're going to be a guest at a stadium, that's all you are. And then you have no rights. But when you play in a stadium, you've got to insist on your rights. And that's something collectively that you need to stick together, and you need to empower your chairman to be able to go and tackle this issue head on. Because for as long as you're playing in stadiums that own your rights, you're going to be poor as clubs and as a league. Fact. So it's very important that you know what you want to do in your stadium. It's very important when you go to this minister and you ask for money that she can see how it's spent, that's going to benefit all of you. Whatever that means. Whatever that means. If it means she's paying for security at live TV matches and that expense comes off the league, at least it's an expense that everybody benefits in, and she can see what it's being spent on. Perimeter board branding is a very easy thing to do. Every one of your matches that's live on TV, each and every one of your matches, should have 40 perimeter boards around the entire stadium. The only place we don't put is when the TV cameras are showing this way, so we only make it those three. Behind the goals, and that side. There's normally between 32 and 40 boards that you can get in that space. If 8 are going to the competition sponsor, even 10 to the competition sponsor, you're still sitting with 30 boards that are unsold. So Kennedy, your task is to tell the clubs how many boards can they get and what can they do with those boards. For example, in South Africa, the competition sponsor gets 14 boards. Okay? Clubs are allowed, I think, also 14 boards. And then the league gets however many is left over, 12 boards or whatever it is. Of the 14 boards that the home club gets, I can't use more than 4 for my main sponsor. 4 is the maximum that any club can get. The reason we do that is that means no club can drown the competition sponsor. The competition sponsor will always have twice as many signs as anybody else in the stadium, and they should, if they're sponsoring the competition. So you want to have, Kennedy, and we can develop it on the side, a perimeter board brand strategy for the league, where the clubs are now going to get allocated signboards for each of them for games. And if they're sharing, let's say it's a double header or they're sharing, and there's 14 boards, then each club gets 7. It's irrelevant who's home and who's away. If they're sharing a stadium, playing at a national stadium, 7-7. If you have LED signage, you can just punch in on the computer and change the signs. But if you're not, and let's say you have a double header, so for your second game, the 7 clubs let's say Chicken Inn are playing Dynamos in the first game. So now you take the Chicken Inn 7 signs away, you take the Dynamos 7 signs away, and then in the next match, you put the Highlanders and the Cap signs. The competition sponsor stays the same, and the league sponsor stays the same. So all you're doing changing between games is 14 signs that need to change if you don't have LED signage. I'm giving you ideas on areas where the minister will pay. If you show her how it can empower you, if you can show her how much money you can each make as clubs, and you can show her that what she's paying is what she's getting what she paid for with an invoice. And she can point to it, and she can show people in the treasury, look at the ZPSL games now on ZTN. It looks like a different product altogether. Instead of seeing 5 Castle Lager signs scattered amongst an entire field, and the rest is all empty signage or sold by some third-party agent in a crooked deal that doesn't benefit football at all. If you said to me, listen, we're getting the stadium, we're getting the upkeep, we're getting the maintenance, we're getting this, you're getting benefits, then we have a different discussion. If someone else is selling your signage and 0 cents is flowing back to football, the system is wrong. You need to address that. And you need to be very, very steady about what are your rights. What are your rights that you own? And collectively, you 18 clubs are Zimbabwe professional football. Every match and everything that goes on in any stadium that's your match, governed by the ZPSL, is yours. People that come and take from there without paying are stealing from you. So you need to be vigilant about your rights and what is yours in your matches that are sanctioned by you, by your football governing body, which is the league, by the Football Association of Zimbabwe. So we need to be much more cognizant of these things, how we build the product together. Obviously, producing players, I've said to you, will produce revenue. Right now, we're thinking more about eyeballs and viewership, okay? And then we have to have the long-term focus, short-term pain for long-term games. Some of these conversations are going to be tough in the short term. You're going to face challenges from the third-party owner because now you're taking back what's rightfully yours. Your rights at your matches belong to you, not to a third-party agent who did a deal with the stadium and no money's coming back to football. Be clear about it, guys. You have to be firm to protect your rights. Let me see what's going on there. Is the thing... Where's the Bluetooth? I obviously can't... Just see, did it come out and in? No, I don't know why. Doesn't seem to be working. All right, click the next one for me, please. Just click on the next slide. Next one. And right. So, some of what we've spoken about today. You've got a vibrant football market. You've got a passionate football culture. You've got quality players. You export as many players to South Africa as any other nation in Africa. Okay? But has this translated into Zimbabwe clubs being strong in commercial terms? And the answer is clearly no. And now we're going to say why. Why hasn't it done? So who are the stakeholders? The club owners, many of you that are here today, the players, the coaching, the admin, the fans, the sponsors, the partners, the broadcast, the rest of the media, government who's been here, the league management who's here, the Football Association. Is there anyone from ZIFA here? No. Okay. And of course, the match officials, we've spoken a little bit about that today. It is a bigger part of the problem, but it's kind of coupled with ZIFA. So that's something that we'll address another day. Now, what makes the big money come into your league? So number one is unified leadership and governance structures. If you want to have big money coming into your league, all 18 of you need to be together. You need to mandate your chairman, you need to mandate your CEO to do stuff for you that you all agree on. You can't expect corporate Zimbabwe to buy into you when you're infighting yourselves. So if there's infighting here and there isn't a unity here in this room, you're not going to get the benefits that you're looking for. You want to have a quality broadcast partner. Obviously, as SuperSport, we like to feel that we're quality broadcast partners. And from a ZTN point of view, we've had a really good, positive working relationship with ZTN. We're on the right track to keeping the standard that we want to uphold throughout Africa. So a product that we can be proud of. And we're going to continue to work really hard with ZTN to make sure that the standards, the innovation, the concepts that we look at are globally world-class, so that Zimbabwe football is not left behind in any way. You want to have sponsored competitions? There's room for improvement here. There's room for improvement because you're too reliant on the breweries. And you need to have a bank in there, and you need to have a telecommunications category in there, and maybe even to have a betting a company in there, because there's easy betting money for the league to strike and make money. Now that money, everybody can share. So you want to be going to the minister with stuff that empowers you for everyone to make money. Not, believe me, the minister's not giving money to be handed out to 18 people equally. It's not going to happen. So let's rather focus on what expenses can the minister help us with that empower us to make more money, that empower us to have more sponsored competition, that empower us to get bigger crowd support and more attendance, because then you make gate money, okay? To have sponsored clubs. Every one of you should have sponsors. This Hewlett's, are they still your sponsor?
Yes, they are.
And what do they give your club? Do you want to share, or you not allowed to share? Is it Muti secrets? Do they give you money? Products?
100% support.
They give you all your support.
Yeah.
They back the club.
Yeah. It's a company-owned team.
How many teams here, just by show of hands, have front of shirt sponsor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 6, 7, 8. That's not bad. I'm saying 8 sponsored teams out of 18 is not bad. I don't think we have 8 sponsored teams in the PSL at the moment back home. So it means you've got a foundation, guys. There's an interest factor there. This is a good and a positive sign that we need to build on. Quality pitches, I talk about the stadium environment. This perimeter board field coverage, I've just spoken to you about it. You've got inventory there that you're wasting, that you're not selling. Every person should be seeing brands at live TV matches. And brands pay to be on TV. So there should be money coming in. The perception of fair officiating, I think we've already spoken today. There were some interviews being played out here during the lunch break of one fan standing in the middle of Harare complaining bitterly that when Dynamos plays his team, they get all the decisions going their way, okay? Now, it might be true and it might not be true. But the perception is often 9/10 of reality. And perception of corporate Zimbabwe, that Zimbabwe football doesn't have fair officiating, is not a good thing for you guys. So you can't just say that's the association's problem, they must fix the referees. We need to be part of the solution. We need to go to the Football Association with proposed solutions on how we track and monitor the referees, on how we upskill them, of how we actually kick out the useless or corrupt ones. Because many of the decisions you make or you see that you aren't happy with in football can only be one of 2 reasons. Incompetence, dishonest. Do we want either of those 2 type of people in our football? No. Kick them out. A guy who makes mistakes, but he's honest. We work with him. We improve him. But a person who's incompetent, even though he's honest, he's got to go. Not good enough, got to go. Not honest enough, got to go. Are we ready to make those calls? And how do we engage with the Football Association so that we work together with them? Because you can't do this one independently. Fixture management, we've spoken about that. Kit compliance, we've spoken about that. Security, we've touched on it. Youth development, very important for the progress of the game. Right now, I'm not even talking about prescribing for youth development, because first we must build your professional clubs, and then we can filter down to development and media management. Now, the way forward. You need to use your public platform to project a positive image about Zimbabwe football. The look feel of the product has to be world class. That means the pitch needs to be world class. It needs to be a good pitch. Need to have perimeter boards. Need to have kit compliance. Electronic substitution boards. Do you have, Kennedy? For all live matches. Okay. You see in bold here, facility, infrastructure and maintenance, bigger picture. We've spoken to the minister. We're going to talk more about it. For me, more important than the infrastructure is having a clean stadium that you can brand. That's yours, not the municipalities and not any third party. Then, disciplined and professional administration, which Kennedy will bring you, your fixtures, your team sheets, your technical bench. For the broadcaster and for every media person in the room, and there's been 4 or 5 who've come to speak to me in the breaks. Every one of them has spoken about a problem here in access to coaches and players. Every single media person. Oh, the coach won't let us see the players during a very busy week, or the coach himself doesn't come for the interview. Paid person doesn't come to do their job. Where have you heard of such a thing? I'm not coming because I'm in a bad mood. When Tandu came to fetch me from my house this morning, should I have sent out someone to tell him, I'm not coming? My wife didn't have sex with me last night. I'm in a bad mood. I'm a professional. Now, football coaches are professional people. Whether they win or lose, that's their job. So that means that every one of you must go back in your employment contracts with your coach and put in media functions and activities for the coach. Because if he's not doing it, he's got to go. Because I'm not going to pay broadcast money when I don't get my interview post-match from the coach. And every sponsor feels the same way. So we have to be hard on some of the people. We have to have our own situation sorted out. But sometimes we as owners, we're part of the problem. And we say we give the coach the license. Tell them. It's not I tell them. This is what's selling your game. If you don't buy into this, you can't buy into global football. Punctual kickoff times. Very important. In South Africa, we've introduced match countdowns where 3 days before the 2 teams are speaking, I'm playing in red, you're playing in blue. So we don't have any mix-ups. I'm playing in this kit, you're playing in that kit. Everybody knows what, because then on the day of the game, let's be honest here, have we had problems with goalie socks, goalie shirts clashing with the opposition? Yes. Because that's what happens when we don't have technical requirements on kit specification or match countdown before. Now the other team's wearing yellow and the goalie's got yellow socks and the referee's got a problem, and now you're running around the stadium trying to find a pair of socks for the goalkeeper. And we want to be professional. We want to be seen as professional. We want to charge money for our service. We want to be taken seriously as world class. But we're running around trying to find a set of warm-up socks for the goalie so that it doesn't clash with the opposition on match day. These are small things, but they happen to all of us every week. So we need to make sure that we stamp that kind of nonsense out. Proactive media management, creating local heroes. I can't stress enough. And it'll be great when you get your national teams going again, because you can start building from there. Your national team players need to be heroes. People need to look up to them. And that also means responsibility for the players, by the way. Whether it's in their contracts or player code of conduct or whatever you have. Because if you've got a player who's a national team player, but actually all that he is an advertisement for you in how to drink or how to get involved in off-the-field nonsense or how to have domestic violence against his partner, then is he a good advert for you or actually the opposite? So in every layer, the minister must have said accountability 20 times. But the accountability is at every level of the chain. The player needs to be accountable. The coach needs to be accountable. We need to be accountable. The ref needs to be accountable. The sponsors and the municipality needs to be accountable. This is literally a team effort. Because if any one of those links in the chain is weak, you're only as strong as that weakest link in the chain, and the chain will break. So we have to strengthen up, guys. Okay? I put here incentivized grant distribution because I'm not a believer like the chairman in equal for everybody. I'm a believer you bring to the table, you benefit. You bring less to the table, you benefit less. You bring more to the table, you benefit more. So for me, grant distribution in South Africa, we do have a major portion of the grants that's given to all clubs equally. In the English Premier League, it's split very differently. 25% is split equally amongst everybody, and then the rest is about how many games you're on TV. How much did you comply? Do you have a youth academy with all the different age groups? Do you do corporate social responsibility, etc., etc.? A long checklist. And if you do all those things, then you get your 50 million pounds. And if you don't do all those things, then you're going to get 10 million pounds or 20 million pounds. And the clubs that are doing it right get the full grant, and the clubs that are paying lip service and short cut everywhere, they're going to get less. So it's something that you guys need to think about as you move forward. Right now, there's nothing. And we need to get to something. So we need to put those parameters in place and the principles in place before money comes. When money comes afterwards, it's only a fight. Only a fight. But if you have all your policies in place before, even if it means equal distribution. But what is equal distribution? What's the minimum delivery of every club in the league? If you're going to get minimum, if I'm going to give established brands and brands that are winning the league and finishing in the top 6 every year, I must give them the same money as the bottom 4 teams that are getting relegated. Why? Why? One team spending on better players, better facilities, better coaching, better kit, better environment, better media, food and refreshments, better plug points at their stadium, better hospitality, better team sheets. Why should they get the same money as someone coming over here giving me dog's breakfast every week? Can't be. So what we normally work out is a criteria in compliance manuals, and that's the minimum. That's the minimum. And you only qualify for your grant when you're delivering on those levels. So these are things, I know it's not easy to hear, unfortunately. Because I came here to, not just to inspire you for 5 minutes and walk away and nothing changes. I'm here to tell you the real facts on how you're going to build your football. And you're not going to build it when there's cheating in the room. And it's the same on the field of play. If I can talk soccer, Charlie will tell you. When you've got 2 or 3 guys hiding in the game, they're cheating. They're cheating their teammates. The chance of success is less. When all 11 are running for the same goal, maybe not the same ability, maybe not the same speed, but everybody together working hard as a team, and that's what this is about today. We have to act as a team. And if there's going to be 3 or 4 clubs that it's not so important to them whether the Zimbabwe league is strong or not, because they're not going to be here anyway in 2 or 3 years' time. They're going to be one of the 4 that keeps getting relegated. Are we going to allow that to be the standard? Or at least 14 clubs in this room are going to stand up and say, we want a brighter future for ourselves and our clubs. Then that starts here, and it starts today, to build our brand and build our club brand strong. What's the media landscape? Your traditional media, which we've got in the room, and we're very blessed today to have the newspaper and the radio with television. because oftentimes they're seen as separate markets, and even some like negativity from one to the other, which can't be. We need to work together as an industry, as a media industry. And I was speaking today to the chief exec of the Zim newspapers, and I was saying to him that my company comes from newspapers. MultiChoice, DSTV, SuperSport, we were born out of a group called NASPERS, which stands for the National Press of South Africa. It was all the newspapers, the City Press, the Report, the Beeld, magazines, different variety of different magazines. Even now, some of you might know the La Duma newspaper of soccer in South Africa, all part of our print media, Media 24 offering that we used to have. But the reality is that print media is dying, converting to digital. So we can put our heads in the sand and try and dream about another era where newspapers is going to make a comeback. Then you're going to sound like my friend from Dynamo's talking about your 21 league victories that happened a long time ago. Because we have to evolve. We have to stay relevant. We have to be current. Today, people are consuming their news on the phone, on their tablets, on the move. They don't want to have to go and buy a newspaper to throw away. They're quite happy to click on a button and read ZNN online. So are we geared for that? Are we moving towards that? As print media in this country, as clubs in this country, are we gravitating towards digital? Where we've got an app now, where you can go onto the app and listen to the radio commentary of your team's games. That's moving forward, as opposed to saying, no, we're staying in our traditional box. We're going to stay with print, we're going to stay with radio, it's all integrated now. Now it's nice for a person to be able to tap. He can watch some goals, he can watch some highlights, he can watch some clips. Everybody's doing this now. So do we want to still stay 1979? Or are we going to move to the digital age and embrace change? This is what we as an industry have to do. And today, it's not so much about newspapers and magazines anymore. My daughter's 16. She laughs at me when I buy a newspaper. She thinks I'm a dinosaur, and that's what she calls me. Dinosaur. Daddy, you're a dinosaur. I can read all those articles that you're reading by doing this. She doesn't need to read anything that you can hold in your hand. And me, I'm used to reading the newspaper. Even today, you see me. I'm writing with pen and paper. And all the young ones are busy doing this, taking photos of the slides, doing da-da-da-da-da. And I'm still writing pen and paper. But we have to evolve. We have to embrace the new technology. And that means new media. That means websites. That means Mobi sites. That means apps. That means Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok now. TikTok's a big thing. Your players are role models. Get them into it. Your players making a couple of TikTok posts a day, one post a day, one post a week, from different collective players, you will get following. Test it. Watch and see. So instead of looking at one or two of your players, that one's a crazy. I've got a crazy guy for me. His name's Gabuza. Anyone know Gabuza? Crazy guy. Crazy guy. During lockdown, when we were supposed to all be locked in our houses, he was caught going 183 kilometers an hour on a public highway with a boot full of alcohol during an alcohol ban. Okay? Real crazy guy. But unbelievable character and popular with people. And when he makes a post online or whatever, he gets 10,000 likes in 5 minutes. So we've had to harness his energy, and we've had to work harder with him to create content for TikTok, which is good and positive, and silly stuff he's done. One day we were standing at training, and the guy was mowing the lawn on the field next door. and he parked his tractor, and he went to the back to fix something. Gabuza jumped on the tractor and started riding the tractor around the training ground. We got 1.3 million hits. One of my players was filming it. He posted it afterwards. We got 1.3 million hits of a guy driving a tractor around a training field. You'd think to yourself, who wants to watch that? But 1.3 million people did. So these are little things, ideas, content creation on getting your players to be part of the solution. They've got a role to play in this. And you've got all of you characters in your team that are funny, that are interesting, that have different hobbies. We had one of our players who's a very good cook. We got him into MasterChef South Africa. Because as a football player, he had some appeal. So there's all the time thinking, how can we generate stories and content and interesting stuff through our players? Look what some of the media have to go through. Now, if I'm working and you're asking me to come and sit here, okay? Yeah, where there's bird poo, hasn't been cleaned for weeks. I'm going to mess up my suit, my pants. The plug point, I'm not sure if it works. I could get electrocuted. I'm not 100% sure. The media wants to come to a place that is catering for them, that's looking after them, that the plug points work, that they can post their stories, that there's Wi-Fi. And if you don't have Wi-Fi, then we've got to go to the league and we've got to box for Wi-Fi. And we go to the minister and ask her to buy us a portable Wi-Fi router. She can see it. She can compare the price. She can pay the invoice. And now at every one of your games is a portable Wi-Fi router where it enables press to download their stories and get their stuff in real time. Not that people have to wait 1.5, 2 hours to find out what happened at your game, but it happens now. Little ideas, I'm talking about small things, nothing. I'm not talking about changing the world, but buying 18 portable Wi-Fi routers for the clubs to enable online and digital. If you can't find a sponsor for that, then we've got real problems. Because I can promise you that if I came to Harare and spent 2 hours in corporate Harare, I'll find you a sponsor for that. You're telling me there's no Wi-Fi people, no fiber companies in Zimbabwe, no telecoms that would want to get involved in such a thing? Bit of money, bit of Wi-Fi provision. It's a no-brainer. Just needs to be packaged and as part of a whole structure. So these are ideas. I'm just talking about ideas, guys. How we manage our relationships. How do we improve our relationships with the media houses? How do we improve our relationships with individual journalists? And we all know that some of the journalists, they want a little bit of love in different ways, okay? That's where media accreditation, relationship with journalists, the league's relationship with the journalists, all our club relationship with the journalists, we need to build those things. And then the real guys will have traction and stick, and the guys that are there for the wrong reasons will slowly start getting, I know it's not easy, like the minister said, go to the newspapers and tell on someone. It doesn't work like that so much. It's not so easy. But in terms of who Kennedy gives accreditation to for next year for the league, that is in your power. If there's journos or people or individuals that are not putting in the effort, why should they get accreditation? If they're just coming for the lunch and they're not giving you coverage, what are they doing there? Everyone has a job in this pipeline. There's no free ride for anybody. Everybody has to bring their little bit to the party, including the journos. And I'm standing here the whole day saying to you, look after them, give a good environment, give them food and refreshments, give them working PowerPoints, give them portable Wi-Fi, give them team sheets that are correctly labeled, give them access to the players, give them access to the coaches. I'm standing here and I'm saying give. But it doesn't mean that the journo just take. We're giving all of those things. Why? We're giving those things to get a return. It's an investment. It's not an expense. When you see the media as an expense, then you see it as, But when you see it as an investment, now you ask yourself, what did my investment get me? How many good articles? Did it help me get a new sponsorship? Did it do positive feature about my club, about my chairman, about my players, about my sponsors, about my initiatives in football? What kind of coverage am I getting? But when we lazy as football and we don't want to audit the work of others, we just want to blame. Oh, this one didn't cover, this one didn't do, this ref wasn't like this CEO didn't do this chairman didn't give us support, this guy missed a penalty, this referee made a bad call. We always blaming everybody. We got to ask, what are we bringing? How are we controlling? How are we monitoring the journalists? Look after the ones that do the most for you and cut the ones that do nothing. This is an important part in terms of managing your relationships. Improve your relationship with the broadcaster. Obviously, I saw there was a show here called The Couch. Yeah? Is it a football show? Or I wasn't sure. It looked like maybe it was for people that needed psychological intervention. You know, like Sigmund Freud said, come lie on my couch. You know, what's your problem? Okay? But that kind of talk show, those kind of magazine shows, the things that bring interest, push for your players to be on there. Push for your coach to be on there. Go as a chairman of your club and educate Zimbabwe public about the dynamics of your club and your industry. Put on a positive show for people. Radio has a very strong role to play in providing news coverage and publicity for the sport. Now, I don't represent radio. I represent TV. But we work very closely at SuperSport with all the radio stations in South Africa, because we understand that our market is 4 or 5 million viewers who own decoders. But there's 45 million people in my country who don't own a decoder. What's their touch point to the game? What's their touch point to loving football? What's their touch point that when they do have enough money, they're going to come and spend it on a decoder? Because in South Africa right now, it's not easy for people. We've got load shedding. It's not like the rest of Africa, we're all used to it. I go up and down Africa, every single one of my friends that lives in Nairobi, that lives in Lusaka, that lives in Addis Ababa, every single one of them. They have to have their own water tank. They have to have their own generator. They can't rely on infrastructure. Now in South Africa, we've got load shedding all the time. So when people are struggling for money, should I be paying my 1,000 Rand for DSTV subscription? Or should I be buying a solar inverter? Or putting that money towards a generator so that I can feed my kids? These are the real choices people are making. So if I want them to spend their 1,000 Rand on DSTV, I need to make sure that my product is adding value back to them. Because I'm taking away real stuff from them with my money. And it's the same here, guys. It's the exact same here. So it's very important for us that we don't just say TV is the only thing that counts. Because we've got to service the millions of people that can't have TV, that maybe one day will have TV. But we still want them to love football. We still want them to love their team, their club. We still want them to follow and be passionate. What's the score? What's happening? Because I grew up in my life, I grew up listening to radio commentary of football. When I was a youngster, there wasn't TV in South Africa. The first 5-10 years of my football consumption was only in radio. But I still love the game. So it's important for us to make sure that we manage all of these relationships. My friend at the back there spoke about the mixed zone and the mushmash that happens sometimes at the end of the game. So you have the exclusive zone, which is TV. There you get the captain, the man of the match, the coach of both teams. Maybe 1 or 2 players extra. That's the exclusive zone. The rest goes to the mixed zone. So radio, print, whatever other journos there are, they're already there in the mixed zone. And there's no limitation on how many players or how many people. It's up to you guys. You can make those rules. We'll make 5 players available. We'll make 3 players available. We'll make the goal scorers, the man of the match, and the captains available. You can select. That all happens in the mixed zone. That's where print and radio and everybody else who's not paying rights fees gets access to the products. So we don't say no access to those people, even if they're not paying. We say definitely access to them, but it comes after I've had my TV live on I've had my interview on live television. I get my content first. I can't have a radio station air an interview with a coach before he's been on TV with me. I need to be first. Otherwise, what's my competitive advantage? So that's why we have mixed zones and exclusive zones. The photographers, very often we have photographers in our games, and then if you want to buy a photo to use for an advert, the photographer's charging you. But he took pictures in your event, of your team, of your brand, in your stadium. Now he's charging you. So accreditation of photographers and what photos they can and can't use and how many you can and can't get as complimentary as part of the deal, these are all things that are in your power to negotiate. If you're just going to have a free-for-all on your product and every single person can walk into a stadium and do what he wants and take clips and take videos and syndicate his own content online, then all you're doing is saying, come into my store and steal from me. It's like opening a little grocery store and just inviting people in. Take chips, Dad, go for it. No problem. You have to control your content, guys. This is your content. This football belongs to you. Nobody can take a photograph of something. You pay the player, you buy the kit, you paying for the match, you paying the contract, and then someone's coming to tell you, I've got a photo of your player, give me money. Now, I'm not trying to do photographers out of a living. Please forgive me if there are any photographers in the room. I want photographers at all your games. But I want them accredited photographers. I want them accredited on the basis that they know what they have to give you and what they can sell for themselves. And maybe they're going to only give you a few value-added services. And the rest they can go and sell to media houses and make a living. Not trying to take food off the table for anybody. But you can't come and eat at my expense. You can't come into my restaurant and eat. It must cost me. So I think it's important that we get the balances right in terms of accreditation, from photography to media across the board. TV footage, match reports and coverage and statistics. The world is moving to statistics now, guys. People want to know how many passes, how many tackles, how many shots. This is what's governing people all the time. Any of your kids that have PlayStation, who has kids here that have Sony PlayStation they're playing? These kids are studying the statistics all the time. They know this player rating, that player rating, he's better than him, better than him, better than him. So our 9 and 10-year-olds, they know more about our footballers than we do. But we're supposed to know that kind of stuff. So your statistics, your match coverage, your match reports for post-match, also important. And if you're only going to rely on the journalists to do it, then you mustn't be surprised later when you say, I got bad coverage, because you left it to chance. But if you're giving materials making it easy for the journalist, you're giving the team sheets, you're giving the content, you're giving the injury updates, you're giving some of the news, you're making it easy for the journalist. You're going to get more coverage. You're going to get more publicity. This is important that people keep seeing the league results. In the newspaper, ZNN, it needs to be there all the time. People need to know when they go to the back page, there's going to be a PSL league table over there. There's going to be a match report. There's going to be some coverage and news every single day. That's important, Kennedy. Every single day. Nobody can pick up the back page of any newspaper in this country without it covering something on PSL football. And if you have to keep going around to the clubs, and believe me, Kennedy, half the clubs won't give you what you ask for. Don't be sad. Focus on the half that give you what you ask for, because they're going to get coverage and they're going to grow stronger. So you can't cater for the lowest bar. You have to go and aim high. And the log standing update, that's just to make sure that it's all the time relevant. All the time relevant. People are checking all the time what's going on. These 18 names, they're seeing them every day, every week. and then the rest is all detail around it. This was my old coach, Kevin Johnson. And have you heard of him? Now look at this is real, hey? Look at what goes on here. Everyone's got their little tape recorder, their phone, whatever they're recording on. He's here. TV is somewhere at the back here. That's why we stopped all that. That's why we went for exclusive zones. So now TV gets the front end. He comes here. He stands in front of this board here. Looks like a nice backdrop. Meantime, it's in the middle of a passageway, but it looks good. Same as here. If I'm standing here, any image and imagery behind me, these brands are getting coverage now. But when I look at a lot of the coverage that comes out of ZPSL, especially on the news and other things, all uncontrolled backgrounds. No backdrops like that. No giving Castle mileage, no giving ZPSL mileage, not giving ZTN mileage. We'll show an old building in Harare that's falling apart with signage coming down the side of the wall. Or we'll show a hotel room with a white wall in the background. And what we're losing is value. If you show the same image with that background, it's worth $10,000. And at the end of the season, you can say, we generated $1 million worth of dollars of coverage for you on news alone, which you're losing now because you've got no interview backdrops. You've got no brand collateral. You've got no brand signage of your clubs and of your league. So you need to really push hard, I think, to make sure that your brand collateral is a lot stronger. Now, this signage here, you can see this is the competition logo, and this is the PSL League logo. And that's the company logo. So they have a competition logo. It was the Telkom Knockout Cup. They have their brand logo, which is Telkom, and there's the PSL. So this is just the generic competition sponsor logo. This is not your club logo. Your club backdrop would have your club signs layered and tiered all across it. Very important in terms of your media. Now, here's the social media, okay? And you can see what I talked to you about before. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Don't know what that is. Push it, maybe. What's that? Pinterest. No idea. I'm too old. And LinkedIn. So you can have all these things that increases your traffic, your loyalty, all these, what we're looking for in social media. Now, if you look in Africa, okay, this is the top 10 teams in Africa that have a digital footprint. Now, you can see these numbers are big, and they're not very normal, but they're big. And they spread across these genres. So you can still see that Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, these are the highest numbers. Okay, all the way down for all the clubs. The first South African club that comes in here is Kaizer Chiefs. Then Pirates, then Sundowns. See any Zimbabwe team? Not yet. Okay, wait a second. Let's go to slide 2. We see anything here? Slide 2. Now look at this club. This is an interesting club for me. Azam. Have you heard of them? From Tanzania. Also linked to a TV company, etc. Been very smart about their positioning in the social media space. Saying, okay, we know we can't fight the big giants of Africa in money, but we can fight them in social media. And top 12. A little club. That's not an old club. It's a young club. But here they are, top 12 in Africa, in their digital community. Now that has appeal for sponsors. And then we go all the way down, even big brand like Mazembe, not in the top 20. But on the field of play, they're in the Champions League quarterfinals every year. So on the field of play, they're top 8 every year. Off the field of play, they're not top 20. Can you see the disconnect? Okay? There's a disconnect. Okay, we managed to sneak in here and look at these buggers. 7 years old, and they're right behind us already. Because they're cheeky ones. But this is what we want to encourage. I don't have a problem with them. I like what they're doing. You know why? They've made me have to look over my shoulder. and I need to wake up a little bit. And where before I just had a media officer, now I've got a social media officer, and I've got a digital media officer. Because I want to fight them in that space. I want to compete in that space. I'm saying if Azam can do it, so can I. If Azam can be in the top 12, why can't I be in the top 12? And that's what I want to see from you guys, to say, right, we're going to break into the top 30 in digital footprints. You got the capacity, let's look at the number. This is the total number of the digital community, 500,000 people. Now, if I ask my good friend here from Dynamos, how many supporters you got, brother?
Before the census that we had recently, we were standing at 7 million.
Right. Now, this is good. This is good. This is good. Don't laugh. This is real. This is real. 7 million. I'm saying to you, if you can get 10% of your fans, just 10%, only 10%, to click once on Twitter or YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, just click once. You, my friend, will be sitting in the top 25 with me. 10%. That's not a lot. 1 out of every 10 supporters. Run a competition, do a campaign, think about things online. There's many good journalists and media people in the room that can work with. And I'm not only talking about you, I'm talking to you because I'm picking on you because you're an old established brand like me. I'm an old established brand who has to find new relevance. So you want to think about it, because if you can get those kind of numbers, we're not going to have this conversation about sponsors, because you will have sponsors. And when you and we all add up in the room, the Zimbabwe Premier Soccer League suddenly becomes a league worth following, a league that can punch above its weight, a league that can command some sponsorship from Southern African and Pan-African companies. And this is what I want to see from you, to look at these things, inspire yourself, get into the top 30, throw out a challenge, come on, run campaigns, show us what you can do, build your social media following. It's the start of money, guys. Okay? In South Africa, this is the list. So you can see in global terms, we're not that big. But when I look here at what you're talking about, my friend, you would be sitting here in 4th place in South Africa. You would be a top 4 brand in South Africa. Okay? Make it happen. Think about the campaign and launch a campaign. You've got TV here that will help you do it. You've got radio here that will help you do it. You've got a league here that will help you do it. Let's be creative about our digital campaigns, okay? In terms of your planning, everything today is shorter and quicker. Even in cricket, you can say whatever you like. Cricket. But nobody watches cricket for 5 days anymore. People want to watch 20-over cricket. When I grew up, 50-over cricket was popular. And we would go and watch a 50-over game. If I told my son now, I'm taking you to a 50-over game, he'd tell me, Dad, kill me. I'll go to a T20, that's all. Because kids want short, sweet, segment, quick. What we're seeing as a broadcaster, one of our challenges, is that people don't want to sit through 90 minutes anymore. Now we're getting requests as a broadcaster that people want us to send them the goals as they happen. So we've got to start thinking how we're going to plan ahead for those kind of pay-for-play services. To say, how do we monetize that? Okay, we'll send a guy goals, but what's he going to give us? He subscribes, he pays a fee, and then he gets the goals within, 60 seconds, sent to his phone. This is what the consumer wants. People want short form, summary, quick, microwave. That's how we don't cook anymore. In the microwave, 1 minute, 33 seconds, done. So, but now we can pretend that it's not happening, or we can criticize the youth. What's wrong with the youth today? They want everything quickly. Or we have to adapt. We have to say, how do we give them some bite-sized chunks? How do we give them a little 2 minutes of my club twice a day? How do I give them those little touch points That doesn't take a lot of time, because if you ask a youngster to read for more than 2 minutes, they don't want to. So how can I get them to tap, to play, press play, to get a pop-up, to get an offer, to get a thing? How do I engage the youth? We've got to be thinking about that all the time. So we must post visuals. You must get more people to like your sports team page and to click likes in your Instagram and your Facebooks, your quotes, your updates. And every day, guys, one thing about the digital world, ask your kid, how many WhatsApps did you send today, boy or girl? Ask them. 20, 30, 50, all little. Even today, the kids can't think. Kid can't write, I'm upset with you. They'll send frowny face. I love you. One heart coming out the cheek. I'm nervous. The emoji with teeth. Because the kids are being conditioned today to summarize their feeling in an emoji. Not to express the whole feeling like when we grew up. Now kids can pick an emoji that fits my mood. I'm this today. I'm picking crying face. I'm picking smiley face. I'm picking laughy face. So all the youth that are growing up now are learning to box their emotions into one emoji. Now that's a different market, guys. And we've got to think to ourselves, what are we giving the guy that's easy for him, like an emoji? How am I doing my soccer emoji with this guy? What am I doing to connect with this guy every day? A news story, a fixture update, scores, junior teams. Now in South Africa, the kids are subscribing. They want to see how my under 13s are doing, how my under 15s are doing. We've got a streaming app in South Africa called SuperSport Schools, if you've heard of it. Now you can go and watch your under 13, under 15, under 17 play football live on streaming at over 20,000 schools and clubs. And you can go and you can pick out, okay, I want to watch my under 14 kid play rugby at this school against this school, and you can watch it on your app. You can watch it on your tablet in your office. You don't have to leave. You don't have to leave to go watch your kid play. You can watch him on an app. This is the way the world is moving. Are we ready for that world? Are we ready to embrace that world? In coaching, all of you, every single one of you is interested in finding the best young talent. There's not one person in this room who isn't interested in finding what I heard someone say something about diamonds here. Manica diamonds or something. Everybody wants to find that diamond. We all want to find that diamond. How many people in this room are using artificial intelligence to find their diamond? Anybody? Ngiza? Oh, a secret you didn't want to share, eh? Platinum FC? You're using artificial intelligence? Because the best clubs in the world now are using artificial intelligence to tell them, the computer tells you, who's the best players in Zimbabwe? Who's the best players in Zambia? How does the Zambian compare to the Zimbabwean, compare to the Ugandan, compare to the Ethiopian, compare to the South African? All on a click of a button. All with your matches, by the way. Because they take all your matches and they analyze the footage and they spit out the information. The cameras that Tandu gives me for my training ground in South Africa, my youth academy, 4 age groups train there. At the end of the month, I get a report. Tells me which players of mine made the most tackles, the most headers, the most completed passes, covered the most kilometers. I don't need a coach or a scout to tell me. The computer will tell me this guy ran in the month of May 47 kilometers at training. And this guy ran 42 kilometers at training. And this guy made 2,400 passes. And this guy made 1,700 passes. He had an accuracy of 83%. This one had an accuracy of 78%. The computer's doing it all. Now, I know it seems foreign to you guys, but I'm telling you that within 5 years, you're going to have all of that technology here in Zimbabwe doing all that work for you. So if you're an old school scout, like Charlie, okay, and you're used to trusting your eye, like my coach Gavin, there's still room for it, but it's not the same anymore. Now Charlie has to learn a new skill set of understanding analytics, because now he needs to understand what's the computer telling him. And then somewhere between what the computer's telling him and his own eye, then he trusts. Because sometimes the computer will tell you things, the guy made 2,000 passes, but 1,900 were 2 meters square passes and backwards, no penetration. You understand? So it's not all about the statistics, but it gives you an idea. And when it comes to fitness, like my guys who wear fitness vests, how many teams here use fitness vests in their club? Ngezi? No? Nobody? Okay, that's good. Now in South Africa, out of the 16 Premier League clubs, 13 are using those vests. So you can't cheat in the South African League because everybody knows how many kilometers you run, how fast, your heart rate, everything. It's all there. The data is there. So you can't hide. So the embracing of technology, guys, it's whether you like it or you don't like it, it's here with us. It's the new world. It's the new football. And those that are smart and those that use technology clever are going to fly. And those that want to stay in 1979 are going to stay in 1979. And those are the choices that we have to make. The television rights, like I've said to you, big driver of value, the packaging of your rights, obviously your ad hoc negotiations versus your invitation to tenders. We haven't had that right here. The broadcast partner interaction, this is part of it that we're doing today, and the new media complexities. So Kennedy, like when I told you about your rights has changed in world football. Used to be, for example, when we sold rights to MTN in South Africa, we would sell telecommunication rights for MTN, and it was very simple. We knew that they were getting mobile rights, SMSs, stuff like that that was in the phone space. Today, MTN is a bank. Today, MTN sells electricity, not just airtime. If you want to buy electricity, you can buy it on MTN. You can send money out the country on MTN. You can buy different products and services from MTN. They're no longer the traditional, telecommunications that they were. They're very interested in many rights that belong to SuperSport. Nedbank, our bank, same story. Used to be a bank was a bank. But now the bank is an insurance company. They're selling life insurance. They're selling phone products. They're selling cars. They're selling vehicle finance. They're selling corporate finance. So where do you classify the bank now? It used to be the bank was the bank. Now you're not 100% sure what's the difference between a bank and a telecom, because they're doing very similar stuff. And both of them are wanting content, which belongs to TV. It's become a very complex world. Because MTN say, we're the sponsors of this competition. We would like to send out all the goals from our competition to all our subscribers. Seems fair enough, right? Yeah, except SuperSport's paying many millions of rands for those rights. Why would we just give them to MTN? So the world of rights has become much more complicated, and that's why it's important, Kennedy, when we package the rights from the beginning, to be as specific and clear on every single thing, from perimeter board to signage to brand size and font to renewal periods to what's included and not included in terms of mobile, in terms of banking, all those type of things when we're selling the rights collectively as the league. Because it's very important that you set the tone for the clubs. Because the league has to come first. If you don't have a strong league, your clubs are worthless. So it's very important, that packaging of rights, and it's something which obviously at a different level, in a different phase, we'll talk about. And here, I'm just looking for ZTN. Where's my soccer guy? This one? This one? Is it my soccer lady? This one? Okay, he looks okay. Not bad. The good thing is, he looks much happier than the Colonel. The Colonel doesn't look like he wants to be on TV. But I think it's very important that that ZTN, together with ourselves and you, the face of what we project as football is very, very important. So it's the same for us, like in our broadcast world. If you see Carol Manana, you know you're talking about football. We need to build the identity of certain brand ambassadors that exhibit Zimbabwe football. Okay? This is a good, clean look, by the way. Modern, fresh, young. Where's he? Hey, you're much better looking in the picture. You know what I'm saying? It just shows you how you can do touch-ups in creative, eh? What you can do with digital. I mean, look at him now and look at him there. So, but I think it is important to develop that identity for yourselves, for the league, for who you use at your functions, who you use in your awards. What personalities are we building? We need to build the Zimbabwe football fraternity. We need to build it from within. And we need to grow people from within. So I think that's very important, you know, for us beyond just television rights. Obviously, content is king. I've spoken to you about some of the things that you can put out there. And here's some content ideas, okay? These are just ideas. Why is live content the best? Because it's unknown, it's unpredictable, it's exciting, it's emotional, there's drama. And it's also the hardest to secure because there's only limited prime time. You all know, 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, that's football time. That's soccer time. And everybody needs to know, view by appointment. 3 o'clock on a Saturday, I'm watching football. Or 3 o'clock on a Sunday, I'm watching football. But if we're changing times, Kennedy, and the times are different, then the viewer and the fan and the person out there doesn't know that this is my routine. My routine is that on 3 o'clock on a Saturday, there's nothing else to consider. I'm watching Zimbabwe football every weekend. And except for the FIFA weeks. We need to be thinking about that. And then the support programming. And now support programming doesn't need to be only on TV. This is where your digital, your strategy, your social media strategy and other things come in. Newsworthy coverage, pre-match build-up, post-match wrap, preview and review shows, highlights packages, magazine programs, theme shows, talk shows like The Couch that you saw over there, media focus, legends like Charlie, okay, archives, youth, lifestyle, reality. We've got to be cross-sectioning all these platforms. When you've got a cooking show, how brilliant to get a great player from the ZPSL on the cooking show to increase the brand of ZPSL. Wherever anybody's touch points are, there must be someone from ZPSL in that world. How are we spreading that out? We need to really be thinking about it. And then, of course, your filler slots, your goals, your saves, your match programs, your teasers. These are all little things that you should be throwing out every day, every day, every day to the Zimbabwe football-loving public. Your stakeholder management, we've spoken about it a few times today, but you can see the players, the clubs, the fans, the sponsors, the media, your employees and the general public. This we've spoken about in stadium management. It's something that needs to be acted upon. So first of all, your custom stadium, which is your pure football stadium. But now many of you, we know, we have to play in multi-purpose stadiums. So often there's an athletics track, for example, around the football pitch. That's always second prize for me because the fans are further away. It's not as nice a broadcast product as a pure football pitch. Okay? Making your assets sweat in terms of your stadium. You don't own it, so we can't talk about that. Increasing footprints, bums on seats. This is important. That we start, because no TV product looks good with empty stands, guys. And we've got all the facts and research to show us that when viewers see no fans in the stadiums, within 7 seconds, they're clicking to another channel. But when the stadium's full, they're stopping to watch. Direct correlation, not coincidence, fact. So we need to get people into the stadium. The facility management and maintenance, I think we've dealt enough with it today. Safety regulations, we've talked about today. The naming rights of the stadium, unfortunately, we're not in that position right now to be able to do that. But clean stadia, you can insist on. Out of this whole list, this is the most important one, guys. because it means you control your rights. It means whatever you sell in your stadium is for you, collectively here. As a club, as an organization, as a league. What you sell in your stadium is yours. Can't be what you sell in your stadium belongs to a third party or to someone else. So we need to really address that one. And that's kind of the general wrap. Now, obviously now I'm going to field some questions and develop some follow-up items as to what we can do working together with the Secretariat, with Kennedy, with the Chairman, with Chairman Jerry, to say, how do we improve your situation? How can we help you? How can we go back to South Africa, me and Thando, and say, right, these are the steps where we can help ZTN, where we can help the clubs, where we can do more to build Zimbabwe football, whether it's in a week, a month, or a year. But let's start somewhere. So I'm going to start with the historical table on my right over here. This is collectively, the collective age at this table is 754 years of experience, yeah? And you know, my chairman always says in South Africa, Chairman Khoza, always says that when we lose an elder, it's like the burning of a library. And I quote it often because it's really true. Sometimes we just, think that old people are old people and they want to talk about how good things were. But the reality is we can learn a lot from our elders. And I was at pains to stress that earlier today, and I'm still at pains now, so I'm starting with this table over here, and maybe questions or things that flowed from today that you would like to do more on.
Stan, we thank you very much for that in-depth analysis. We sit here with no powers. We've got no say at any point of our rights. We cannot participate in advertising. We cannot participate in any form of promotional value at our stadiums. But we are responsible for hiring the stadium. We are responsible for all the expenditure on that day of that stadium. But we've got no rights pertaining to the actual stadium. So how do we then move forward?
In a nutshell, very simply, you're going to make this the league's problem to engage. You're going to make this the league's problem to engage with the minister. You're going to secure at least one national stadium. Let me rather use this. You're going to secure one national stadium, at least one, where you can stand your rights and tell your stadium, we're not playing at you anymore. Because the third-party rights that they've sold illegally of yours are worth how much when there's no matches taking place at that stadium? They're worth zip. The occasional political rally and a church gathering, that's what they can have at the stadium, and see how much they sell that for. But unless you're prepared to stand strong, unified, all of you, to say, right, we're following Kennedy and the chairman, and we're going to centralize our matches at such and such a stadium where you secure those clean stadia rights from the minister. We're talking about one stadia to start. One. When you stand strong and you stand together and say, we're not playing at that stadium anymore, because that stadium's ripping us off. They sold rights that don't belong. If you rent the stadium, you get a clean stadium. Means you can put your signs wherever you want. They're your signs for that day. For all the other days of the year, they belong to the municipality. But on match day, they're yours. And until you tell them, I'm not playing at you anymore because you don't give me those rights, you're not going to force the needle. But by going back and going back and going back and playing under circumstances where basically you're being kept poor, that's a decision that needs to sit in this room. And until you have that courage to stand firm as a collective and stand strong after engaging. First, do all the engagements. Speak with the ministry, speak, local level, get the support. But if the minute you as football, Zimbabwe, agree to play in a stadium where you are basically, all your rights have been usurped from you by third parties, then you're going to stay poor. But when you stand up and say, we're not playing at that stadium anymore, and you call it out, we're not playing there as Zimbabwe PSL because of this reason. We as Zimbabwe clubs are going to have our autonomy. These rights are ours. These matches are ours. These events are ours. So where's the benefit for our industry? Until you're ready to do that, it's going to be a problem.
Thank you, Stanley. I think you responded quite well. But the big elephant in the room, I think, is the stadiums that we are actually having, such that we end up getting desperate to actually go and beg the person who is actually ripping off of your rights. Because at the end of the day, if you don't go there, you will not have football at any given point in time. Look, we have got stadiums that have been banned because they have been poorly managed or maintained in the country, and the authorities of those stadiums don't even care. That's such that some of the stadiums have been banned by FIB for the past 2 years or so, and they've done nothing. So to them, it's not even loss of revenue. It's nothing. It's business as usual. So at the end of the day, it might actually be football that suffers. That brings me to my contribution that I wanted to make, to say, well, one of your slides, you talked of fixture management, which I think is a big challenge in this country currently, mostly centered also on the issue of the stadiums, that you would find the fixtures are there, but we have no dates, so people can't plan for even your next 3 matches because we have no dates. Why can't we not have dates? Because we have very few stadiums that are homologated to host PSL matches. So given that challenge, it's one of those that you then find very difficult even for the Secretariat, worse off for the clubs that are participating, that I don't even know whether I'm going to be playing Dynamos in Blue next week, or they're going to be home, but will I be playing them in Gweru next week, or I'm going to be playing them in Harare because of lack of stadiums. So that planning aspect becomes thrown into the dustbin because of the stadiums. So the issue of the stadia, to me, becomes very key and centralized in everything that we can talk about.
100%. Kennedy, this is a big one we need to have a follow-up session on. For me, it's like the number one thing. Because we can't have, no one here can be autonomous until we empower them to be autonomous. And now we're subservient and helpless. And we have to change that, whatever it means. Whatever it means. But Zimbabwe PSL needs to take control of at least 2 stadia in this country. And I'm not saying exclusively, but for ZPSL matches, that must be your jurisdiction, Kennedy. And you control the stadium with your clubs. And what you decide goes on in those stadiums is for you and your clubs. But you have those rights going in. And we need to box and make sure that we get 2 stadia. If we get 2 under lock and key, we can tell all the other ones to go. Because we've got something to fight with. And then you'll see the benefits. And you'll see the private partnerships that come. And you'll see the corporate backing that is available when people see something that's actually working. But this system now is not working.
You talked of youth development and where women's soccer teams are supposed to be part of the clubs. But I'm still having maybe a small problem where how can we integrate this youth development? Because what I've observed is that there are so many youth academies in the country, but which are not linked to the PSL. How do we bring them in and the women's teams? Thank you.
So again, these 2 ones are not easy ones because the truth is your core product is your Zimbabwe Premier Soccer League. And we have to get that right first. It's very difficult for us to go and fix the youth and women's football, which, you know, is very important and is the lifeblood of where we're moving with the sport. But until you fixed your first product, it's very difficult to fix the next two arms. And I was saying at lunch, you know, when you're in the aeroplane and they tell you your life jacket's under the seat and whatever, and oxygen masks will fall from the panel above your head, please fit your own oxygen mask before helping other passengers. And it's an important lesson for football, because unless we can help our core product, which is the ZPSL right now, it's very difficult for us to help the women and the youth, because we're not able to help ourselves in this room. We're not empowered in the room to help ourselves. So to start growing women's and youth football when the core product is still not buttoned down, like for me, I think we need to fix this, some of the big problems here first, and then you will see the knock-on effect of the other stuff. So first, let's focus on the stadiums and the commercial model which drives your revenue as clubs. My goal is that every one of you by the end of the year must be having more money coming into your clubs than now. So how do we do that? And then once we've done that and we've achieved that and we've measured that and we can see that we've got traction on that, then it's going to be easier for us to go and grow the other components. And even commercially, if we can get one or two fresh sponsors into the professional league, the men's league, then after, for sure, we'll be able to get sponsors for the youth and for women. But it doesn't work the other way. We need to build the first product first, fix our own oxygen mask, make sure we can breathe properly. Now we can help other people. But when we're struggling with our own oxygen, which is what's happening here a little bit, then how can we help the guy next to us, but we can't breathe properly ourselves? So I think that we've got to focus on our commercial model. When I talk our, I'm saying everyone in the room here, to make football more commercially viable in Zimbabwe. And whether that's through training and development compensation, sponsorship, perimeter boards, additional rights, new competition, government grant, it doesn't matter. But we have to make strides in that way.
Thank you very much, Stan, for the address in respect of the television rights. I believe that this topic is quite topical in terms of Zimbabwe, given that is some virgin space that we are venturing into. For many years, we've been seized with gate takings, a little bit from player transfers, up until recently when we realized the power of the value of television rights, and we believe that we are in the right direction in terms of commercializing that property, which property belongs to the clubs. Then secondly, as a club, if you could be with me, or if you were with me from the word go, I shared with you our milestones. The reason why I was sharing with the House the milestones of Dynamos, those milestones constitute the content which we can then share with the general public. Without content, you find that it would be very difficult for one to then sell anything in terms of television rights. You end up selling your fixtures instead of selling the content which speaks to your highlights, your achievements, the great players you've produced, and obviously what you are striving for in the next 2 or 3 years. Then the other thing is, as a club, we turned 60 this year, and we've seen it fit to come up with a TV show, the Dimbare TV show, which show will have a magazine, and that magazine will have the following in terms of contents. It will have highlights from as way back as the formative years. It will have highlights in terms of the epic games that we took part in. It also have interviews in between games, and we've since engaged the PSL. And I would like to say to Mr. Ndebele, thank you very much, Mr. Ndebele, for responding to our request. Because we said, as we turn 60, we'd want to share with the whole world who Dynamos is. And the PSL has given us the green light to make sure that that the TV magazine show project becomes a success. So we believe that with such kind of initiatives, that will help us in terms of building content for Dynamos and even content for the league, because you can't dispute it. Dynamos is the biggest thing in the local league. So the moment we set the tone, Rhinos, Caps United will follow suit. And that will also amplify the value for the league. Thank you very much.
How to be loyal to your brand, eh? A lot of lessons to learn there. Thank you, my chief. I appreciate. And we respect, you know, I come from a country that has 3 big brands. I come from a place where Chiefs, Pirates, and Sundowns are very respectable brands. I think Orlando Pirates is 80 years old now. So I'm saying I understand the history. I come along with my club, it's 27 years. We're young, we're babies. But we respect a lot. And I'm saying that everyone in South Africa knows Dynamos, Highlanders, and Caps. It doesn't mean there's not room now for Ngezi and Platinum and Chicken Inn and others, that brands that in the last 10 years have come and impressed us, and in Zambia as well. So you can talk about Power Dynamo, Lusaka Dynamos. You can talk about the Green Buffaloes and the Red Arrows and whatever. But suddenly, Nkana Rangers and Zesco, you know, smart, good clubs, Zanaco, exactly, producing good players, doing good things. So in football, you snooze, you lose. That's why I said in the one thing there, don't sleep. Don't sleep. Because while you're sleeping, someone else is eating your lunch for the next day. So I appreciate your input very much.
So, yeah, thanks. I just have three things I'd like to ask you. You did talk. Oh, sorry, thanks. You spoke about social media. You said your own club suddenly had a social media person and a media person. I think I'd like to sort of hear, I know some clubs have already done this. I think Platinum and Ngezi are probably 2 of the great examples of what type of internal structures do clubs need to have to harness this idea? Because I see all your ideas, social media, rights, and so forth. But let's talk about the administration side of it, about how they have to be internally structured in administrative right to achieve this result. Second issue, of course, is I'm not sure we can get there, but I know, for example, things like where clubs lose a lot of money is at the gates. Yep, it's a fact, yeah. The gates are leaky as hell in Zimbabwe. Every ticket you sell, probably 3 walk in for free. All right. The recent game, I think Caps Dynamos of 25,000, I think was the number. It turned out 10,000 paid. So the question is pre-selling tickets, ideas like that, particularly of pre-sale tickets. How can you do that to generate more revenue through the different means? And another area that I didn't hear a lot about was merchandising. I always wonder at games, when I go to games and I see people wearing, I bet you how many people here have Real Madrid or Barcelona shirts, right? But when you go to your supporters, they don't have your own shirts. They come into the games wearing Arsenal and Man United and Real Madrid. So I want to know about how we can boost the merchandising. I know Kaizer Chiefs, for example, actually have a card where you can buy funeral cover under Kaizer Chiefs, and for every funeral cover you buy, Kaizer Chiefs gets a portion. And talking about the players, one thing I don't understand, and maybe clubs can tell me this, is why we don't have medical insurance and medical aid for our players. You find a lot of players get injured, clubs can't afford to pay for their serious injuries and so forth, yet you can pay a certain amount every month for all your players. They're insured. It also means that if a player gets injured and cannot keep playing for you, but he still has 3 years of his contract, you can get a lump sum payout, you can walk away. So those sort of things brings the player into the heart of things as well. The player knows that if he gets sick, possibly even if he pays a bit of extra money himself, his family are covered as well, etc. So you also bring the player into the heart of it. So these are sort of some of the things that I would do. There's more, but I think that will do for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. So just to cover some of what Andy said, first of all, I'll share with you how I got my social media officer at my club. I had a player, a Senegalese player playing for me many years ago, about, I don't know, 10 years ago maybe, Mo Diouf. If any of you have ever heard of the Senegalese player Mo Diouf. He scored a goal against Sundowns, playing for me, from inside our penalty box. And he hoofed the ball upfield, and it went over the goalie's head, and it went into the goals. I didn't have social media or any of that in my club at the time. And we suddenly saw on YouTube that this goal, which became the goal of the season in the PSL, within 8 days or 9 days of being scored, had like 5 million hits on YouTube. And I wanted to speak to the guy who posted the video. So I called him to my office. I went to see who posted the video, managed to track him down, and I invited him to my office. And he came there, a youngster, honestly, like knew nothing about football. He liked football, but he's a techno geek kind of guy. And he said, no, I take memorable things and I post them on YouTube, and then I get like 3 cents for every hit and whatever. He was making money from posting my stuff on YouTube. So I said, okay, so how much did you make from this, and how much did you make from it? Long story short, I employed him. I said, okay, come and work for me. And for the last 10 years, that's what he's done. And so my social media came about by accident, is the first thing I'm telling you. The second thing I'm saying to you is that if Dynamos ran a competition tomorrow for young people to be involved in their social media campaign voluntarily, they'll get 100 applicants in an hour. So the resources sometimes that you're looking for, although we're always thinking about money, and I understand why we're always thinking about money. I run a club which loses money, so I know that clubs lose money. But you'll be amazed at how many supporters and people and connected people to your club are good at the stuff that you wish you had. And all they would actually want, eventually they'll want money. But to start things sometimes, to get some energy, most people actually, money isn't the first thing that's on their head. The connection, the attachment, the appreciation, the value, they're looking for that. Oh, I'm part of Dynamos. I'm helping Dynamos generate social media content. So don't always think only about, oh, we need more money to do this. We can't do that because we don't have money. It's not true. There's a lot of people that attach value to your club or love your club, that internally, if you did your own little internal thing, you'll find that passion point at least to get something going, start a campaign, get things moving in the right direction. So when it comes, we were helped in a way because the TV rights in South Africa are quite valuable. And when we gave the TV rights, when we bought the TV rights from the PSL, we put preconditions as part of what we wanted in return as a broadcaster. And one of the conditions we said was that every single club, individually, has to have a media officer who is available all day, 7 days a week, to the league, to generate stories, to generate content, to have a contact point. Now, the PSL is making a social media or digital media person also compulsory. But we are able to do that because of the amount of money that the clubs are getting in South Africa. That means we can say, you have to compulsory employ A, B, C, D, E. It's not just social media and media. Security officer, stadium officer, marketing officer. These are all compulsory positions in the PSL. Now, we would never come to a territory like this and do that. So I'm saying you have to be creative in the formative stages of how you go about building these profiles without cash on the table yet. But when cash comes on the table, you're going to have to deliver. And media and social media is one place where sponsors definitely expect delivery. And my sponsors, if I've promised them 3 posts a day, if I only do 2 posts, I can't go to bed at night without the sponsor saying, where's my 3rd post? That's the degree of delivery that we have to do every single day. The second question, in terms of your gate takings, pilfering and stealing at the gate is part of African football. What we've done in South Africa is actually now take away cash sales. So if you want to come to any of my games, you have to book through Ticket Pro. So we appoint a ticket licensing agent, and that's how you get to my game. So if you don't come with your Ticket Pro ticket that's been paid for already before you get to the game, you're not getting into my stadium, you're getting sent away. Now, I understand that's a process because it isn't something that happened overnight in South Africa, and we had lots of issues introducing it, especially to the informal sector, which deal a lot in cash. So it is a challenge, that you need to look at. But we all know that there's a lot of dishonesty at the gates, and we all know that some of those stewards are running their own kind of shop situation. So I think that's something that is a global problem. The merchandising, most of the jerseys that you see in Africa are black market jerseys. Then when Nike sells an Arsenal shirt or a Liverpool shirt, if you're going to go and buy really that product, it's not affordable. So I'm saying, like, even for me, if my kid wants this jersey and this jersey and this jersey, if I have to go to a licensed agent to buy it, I send him to the market, off to the Chinese market, go get the same shirt. Okay, it doesn't say, Nike, it says Faki, but it's only one letter difference. But I think in South Africa, we as clubs, besides for Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates, and to an extent Sundowns, the other 13 clubs don't make money off the merchandising program. What we seek to do is not lose money. So in other words, I try and make a relationship with my kit supplier where at least I'm getting my kit. I'm not paying for it, because at least 8 clubs in South Africa pay for their kit. They don't get sponsorship. They actually have to buy their kit. They might get a better price or whatever, but they have to buy their kit. And the rest is about how many replicas they sell. So I'm 25 years at SuperSport. We've never sold more than 9,000 replicas in any season. So I know that my kit manufacturers, the hat that I'm wearing now is Umbro. Those are my kit partners. And I wear this cap, or an Umbro cap, every day of my life. It's the one branding thing I give them back. but the reality is that Umbro don't make money with my club. They lose money on my club. So I have to try and find ways of making it more palatable, get more TV games, be in cup finals, finish in the top 8 every year, which we've done for 23 years, to give them some extra kind of value back, because they're not making it in rands and cents of selling my replica jersey. So you have to be realistic. In this market over here, 12 of your 18 clubs are not going to make money off merchandise. But if they can buy for less or get part of it sponsored or offset costs or add value to stakeholders by getting whatever, 100 free jerseys or 200 free jerseys or jerseys for the academy or for the women's team, that's where trading and relationships comes into play. But merchandise is only strong in Europe. Merchandise is not strong in Africa at all. So it's not an area where I would list it as your top 5 revenue stream. And then I hear what you're saying. I mean, we lucky in South Africa, we've got an insurance cover with a company that basically any player that's out for more than 30 days, you get 70% of their salary back from the insurance company. So if a guy has a bad knee injury or leg injury or whatever, the first 30 days you don't earn anything, but let's say now he's out for 6 months, then the other 5 months, I would get 70% of his salary back from the insurance company. Now, I believe that the medical insurance and your medical cover, the requirements that you need for this league, I believe that needs to be attained by going out and getting one national sponsor who becomes the ZPSL insurance or medical sponsor, and that coverage for those players under whatever conditions that are agreed would be entered into with that company. Because for 18 of you to go and get that, it's not going to happen. I can tell you now, it's not going to happen. Each one of you individually is going to be weak to an insurance company or a medical scheme. You don't have enough business for them to underwrite that kind of risk. But if you go as a collective and you're giving a return on investment and TV time and branding at games and you can show we're going to give you back $3 or $4 million in coverage over the season, and then I think that's there are two types of sponsorships you want. The one type of sponsorship brings in cash. So like for me, betting company as an example, I see that as a cash cow. They have a lot of money to spend. They're being blocked off in lots of areas, including, for example, next year in the English Premier League, you're not going to be able to sponsor as a betting company. Right now, today in the Premier Soccer League in South Africa, you can't sponsor as a betting company. But the betting companies are looking for properties. They're looking for exposure. They're looking for affiliations. So I've got no doubt that for like a cash sponsorship, we'll be able to help Kennedy get a cash sponsorship in betting, that cash comes into the clubs. But then there's a different type of sponsorship which goes towards cost saving or, offsetting of stuff or adding value. Medical insurance and medical cover for the players adds tremendously huge value to Zimbabwean football, even if we don't make 1 cent from it, but it's just a pure product play so that your seriously injured players have got cover, or that players are entitled to take out cover for them and their families if they want to at a preferential rate or a discounted price, or we would negotiate that kind of scheme. But that for sure isn't, like banks, you want to take the money. Telecoms, you want to take the money. Betting companies, you want to take the money. But insurance and stuff like that, you're quite happy to take the benefits. Sometimes with the companies like breweries, who are getting your product for a song, okay, maybe they can't put more money, but they would give product on top of the sponsorship. So you look for ways of adding value. For example, we're speaking now about, we said the media must get food and beverage and whatever, or your VIP hospitality is an area which needs to be slightly more upmarket. If I'm sponsoring one of these teams and I'm coming to watch them play at Dynamos, I don't feel good when I'm treated shit at Dynamos. I walk out of there saying, why am I involved with Zimbabwe football? They don't know how to treat people. I didn't get a drink of water. I wasn't made to feel welcome. I had to park in a shitty place. I had to walk around the stadium 3 times. No, the signage wasn't there. It was an unpleasant experience. Go to the toilet, there's no soap, or there's no toilet paper, or there's no running water at all. Who wants to go back to something like that? Nobody. So in areas where we can enhance, like beverage, a lot of the beverage companies, even soft drinks and water, for example. If I just said to you, I can get you a soft drink and water sponsorship for the league for the year, for all your home games, for all your VIP areas or whatever, everyone would be very happy about that. It adds value to the landscape. Might not be worth rands and cents in your pockets, but it's going to add a lot of value. So that's something which your commercial, I'm looking at the structure that the chairman put out on the board today, and I'm saying to you, this man's drowning. But we expect him to carry a lot of us on the back across to the other side. But he's drowning. So if we don't beef up the secretariat, if we don't empower, Kennedy can't be a Mr. Fix-It on every level. By rights, he should have a very strong commercial and marketing director running next to him or parallel with him. And sometimes it's not about only employing staff, by the way. So in the social media space, for example, now, you can freelance to people. So take a couple of interns of the people who volunteer, and out of the best of that lot, put 1 or 2 of them on part-time, on freelance. So you don't have to have labor relations issues and costly, wieldy expenses, but someone can work from home or work flexibly X hours per month. These are the posts that he has to do, and you pay a freelance independent service provider relationship based on your deliverables. Because you're not in a position as a league to be top-heavy on staff. He's not in a position to be top-heavy on staff, and you're not in a position to be top-heavy on staff. So how do we get the machine rolling with limited resources? This is always the chicken and egg I was talking about earlier. We need to do stuff, we have to do stuff, but we don't have resources. So we have to try and find and navigate that way. And that's why, you know, what I've been speaking to the leadership of the football is the next phase of this, once you've had a chance to regroup, look and digest some of what we've discussed today, is actually to do what we've done in one or two other territories where we go with you, with the league, as the broadcaster, and I do it myself, and we go on a corporate roadshow. And we spend 4 days, and we go and see the top 20 corporates in Zimbabwe, and we present. We've been through this process. We've taken the last 6 months. We've had 2 workshops. We've got this package. Here's our commercial rights strategy. We want you to be a part of it. Will you come on board? And Thando can tell you, in 3 days in Ethiopia, we closed up the breweries and the bank in 3 days. Full sponsorship, millions of dollars. But they had the comfort of seeing us, the broadcaster, with ZTN as an example, together, coming with the league, together, on behalf of all the clubs, because you've collectively committed to stuff. And I won't walk into a corporate room unless all 18 of you have signed a collective bargaining agreement empowering me and Kennedy to do what we need to do. I'm not going in with 16 signatures, because I'm not having legal crap afterwards. Oh, Dynamos are not part of this campaign because they've got a different beer sponsor, or they've got a different soft drink sponsor, or a different insurance company sponsor. We need to go in united together. But these things are all doable. But it does take some creative thinking, and you are going to have to do some campaigns in your clubs that's out the box. And don't be proud to invite your fan base and the people within your club to participate in this process. The ones that are crap are going to fall away anyway. So what? They gave from their heart, it didn't work out, no one lost anything. You still keep them on as honorary supporters or whatever you want to do. But we have to get momentum going in some of these areas. So Don't miss eight on a Thursday or Friday, whichever day suits your guys' programming. You know the hard part for you as a free-to-air broadcaster is you've got limited channel space. At SuperSport, I've got 12 channels. I can show all 8 fixtures of my PSL at the same time on different channels whenever I want. It's just a question of money to produce 8 different matches, right? But if you move like I'm pushing Kennedy to try and push towards double headers to double your content, so if you decide that that's a view that you would want to do, people must know 3 o'clock on a Saturday is prime time soccer viewing. That's what I do. I don't make arrangements at 3 o'clock on a Saturday because that's my Zim PSL time. Okay? Now, many places in Africa are scared to go against the English Premier League. So they want to try and do their scheduling when English Premier Leagues aren't playing. I'm saying then you're never going to grow your product. You have to stand strong and believe in your product, view by appointment matches, view by appointment magazine shows in between, and then is your other stuff, whatever, the campaigns, the promotions, the interviews, the TikToks, the digital, that's got to fill up the space. But if you can find 3 slots during the week, Monday review, Thursday, Friday preview, and then maybe 1 slot in between where it's a different focus on a different club every week. So over the 4.5 months or 5 months, every single one of your 18 Premier League clubs, we have a focus on them. We have a spotlight on them. And show, to build them as brands as well. Anything else? Last one. Yes, my lady. I'd like to end on my lady. Yes.
This might be out of my league because I'm not a broadcaster, but I'm interested in finding out when, for example, ZTN can come onto, can be, what is it? It's geo-logged, right, to Zimbabwe? That's correct. When will it be opened up? Because for me, I'm interested in finding it's a better value proposition for my sponsors. It's reaching out to my Zimbabwean community in South Africa and the rest of Africa. And in a way, it's almost, if I was a politician, I'd say it's sanction busting FIFA because I get to get my players to be exposed out there. So for me, I'd be interested in finding out when we can eventually come onto DSTV, but almost in the rest of the continent.
I don't. I think it's very safe for me to say I don't.
It's a good question. While he answers, do you want to ask?
No, I think just a quick response to what Yvonne asked. Right now, we do have some of the matches played as replay. I think it's on SuperSport Variety 4.
Yeah. So
For now, I think in terms of value proposition for sponsors outside Zimbabwe, that is the option that we have right now. But obviously, I think a lot of people would like to see that carry on to live action.
So I think you touched on it quite nicely there in that it's a nice testing ground because it can't just be spread out. It's too much of a business risk, but obviously I'm not going to get into detail for that. It's beyond my domain. But what we do is that the matches that are broadcast here are then sent to us as SuperSport, and then we rebroadcast on the Monday on Variety 4, whatever channel that we communicate to you guys. Then obviously we can assess how it performs, and then from there decisions can be made.
Andy, last one?
Yeah, I mean, it's just more a comment. Thank you. Sorry, a question. Guys, I heard Charlie say we're powerless and we sit here, we have no power. I mean, how many guys sit here in the executive committee of ZIFA? You have 2. How many of you think that you don't have the power as PSL clubs? You know how much power you actually have. And I think Kenny and the PSL Secretariat, as I say, it's tongue-in-cheek, but also serious. I think it's about time that you understood your brand, understood the power it has in Zimbabwean football, and to be honest with you, I think it's about time that you made use of that. We can't put everything on his very broad shoulders, Mr. Ndebele, but I think it's about time that all of you understood together, 18 clubs, yeah, you can make a difference. And maybe some of the things that guys were talking about monies, about getting things from ZIFA and so forth, they're achievable if you stick together and if you do that. Anyway, I think that would be my final thought. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Andy, and thank you, guys. I know I've thrown a lot at you today, and it's a start. It's work in progress. Today was just like a pebble into a pond, and hopefully trying to create a little bit of a ripple and excitement for you, some ideas, one or two things you want to try it at your club, one or two things you feel strongly about that we need to fight harder for with the league, with the minister, with government, with the municipalities, with ZIFA, especially in terms of the referees and the places we want to go in that space. So there's a lot of points to pick from, a lot of things to choose. All I would say to you is focus on the big stuff. You know, focus on the stuff that's going to be commercially viable for you to start. You know, not necessarily merchandising in corporate ticket sales, if you know what I mean, when we first need to be focusing on the bread and butter of our industry, which I think is what we need to be doing. And, you know, the next level, there's so much on a technical space that we could talk about that I didn't touch on at all today. Standardized player contracts, chairman's charter between you clubs as to how you engage with other players and how you engage amongst each other. Because when we think we're clever and we're cheating the guy next door us, it's just going to come around to us. So when we're clever today and we're taking advantage of situations, then we're going to get bitten by the same situation. So what we really want to try and do is create an upward spiral in our football, where there's value coming in, there's commerce coming in. And yes, the bigger clubs are going to share more of that. I can't complain and cry when Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates are getting 85 million for their front of jersey sponsorship, and I'm getting 9. I'm just grateful that they're there to set a high bar, that at least I can still get my 9. But if I want to try be Kaizer Chiefs or try be Orlando Pirates, I'm going to fail dismally. Because they're 80 years old as brands, they've got a collective following, they've got tradition, they've got history, they've got institutional memory way beyond 3 times my club. So each of us has to be realistic. The bigger clubs will cash in more, but there's more of a responsibility on them to deliver, more accountability on them to deliver. So I wish you all luck. You saw my email address up on the slide. You're also more than welcome to contact me through Kennedy. He'll give you my details, my email address. You're welcome to send me anytime email. I can hook up on a call with you. I can give you the advice that the best that I can do. And I will be open and as encouraging and supportive as I can be personally, because the group Supersport cares a lot about this relationship with ZTN. And they want it to work. And they want it to be a role model for many other territories in Africa where we can work hand in glove with the free-to-air broadcaster, benefit their objectives and goals and within their budget, and benefit our objectives and goals within our budget for the betterment of leagues in Africa. Because one thing we don't want to be as a company, as Supersport International, we don't want to be reliant on the English Premier League to survive. We don't want to be in a situation where Amazon comes along next year and offers twice what we offer to English Premier League, and suddenly we can't offer our viewers value anymore. Because if without English Premier League, they're all going to leave. We're super invested in wanting to build African football so that I don't lose any Zimbabwean subscribers down the line if English Premier League falls away, because you've been following ZPSL and you're passionate about it. And we're very proud in South Africa that our audience ratings, our viewership ratings, our numbers on Compact Decoder, which we know is driven by PSL, not by English Premier League. How do we know? Because on the Compact Decoder, there is no English Premier League. So people are buying the Compact Decoder to have access to local football. And we've got 5 or 6 million of those decoders in the market. So we know that we're popular. We know that we have become the number one driver. But in the beginning, we weren't always that. When we started in 2007, we were not that. And when we started in 2007, some of my principals didn't want to clash against the English Premier League game. They were trying to make Supersport games, the PSL games at different times to the English Premier League, so that there wasn't a clash. And until we stood firm and said, you know what, we're going to go head to head. And now Supersport Orlando Pirates gets higher audience ratings than Chelsea against 10 teams in the Premier League. because people have taken to the local product and liked it, but we went through that wall. We didn't climb over it, we didn't walk around it, we hit it head on, and it was painful. In the short term, we lost. In the short term, it was a fight. But now we've got 5 million compact decoders in the market watching PSL. And we as a business feel much more comfortable that we insulated against risk from the international competition. All of you would have seen a few months ago when we announced we're not showing the IPL on SuperSport. And we took a lot of abuse in social media. We had to walk away from those rights because they were expensive, way too expensive. And you know what happened after we made our announcement and we said we're walking away, we're not going to do this deal anymore? We got a lot of criticism from fans, but we also got a phone call from IPL dropping their price. So sometimes you've got to be ready to walk all the way. Sometimes you've got to be ready to walk away if you're not getting value, if you're not getting a deal. And that's what I was saying to you guys earlier about your stadiums and your things. When you're ready to tell Zimbabwe football, we will go and play in one stadium for the rest of our lives, but we will not be disenfranchised by the system here. Then you will get respect, then you will get your rights back, and then you will be able to stand tall with a stronger product. But until you keep kowtowing because of the forces that be, you're going to stay weak. So I wish you strength, I wish you blessings, I wish you love. I want to see more women in the room next time. It's been very nice. I mean, not that this guy wasn't very good looking, but it's much nicer to look at the women's talent. And I appreciate your time, I appreciate your attention. You've given up a day to come and listen to Malungu from South Africa talking nonsense. So I really appreciate it. And I can only tell you, and you can feel it, that my company has deep passion for football, for African football, and for Zimbabwean football. And I like to feel that I've played a small role in empowering probably 40 Zimbabweans over the years that I've been at SuperSport. I look forward to empowering more. I've got George Chigova on my books this year. I'm giving Bash a short-term contract because he says he's 38, but he played for the Zimbabwe national team 32 years ago. So I worked out he was 6 when he made his debut for Zimbabwe. So I wish you luck and love, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Stan. You're really talking a lot of nonsense for sure. Another round of applause for Stan Matthews. How many of us found this very insightful? You see, Stan, like you said, this is just the beginning of a great relationship between ZTN, SuperSport, and the Premier Soccer League. So now I'm going to call upon Kenny Ndebele, the PSL's CEO, to come forward and give the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank the Director of Ceremony, we can stand up, for the job well done. That's it. Just to follow a protocol, I would like to thank the Minister of Sport, Madam Kirsty Coventry, for coming to discuss, brief, but very detailed. Of course, maybe some of us were concentrating on finding out when Zimbabwe will be readmitted or the suspension will be lifted. The media here, I'm sure they captured a lot. It's rare for us to get an opportunity to meet the minister as PSL. So we would like to thank the minister. I'd like to thank the Zim Papers board, represented by the board chairman. He's also a passionate sports lover. The Zim Papers CEO, thank you very much. When we sat down and we discussed this workshop,
we did not realize the impact it will have, maybe on me, but I'm sure on everyone who's in here. When the general manager of ZTN, NOMSA, sent a message to say we are planning a workshop, I then asked her who was coming to facilitate or to present. When she indicated it was Tando and Stan. And I said, okay. Then she said, what do you think? I said, top notch. So I'm sure, NOMSA, with this recording, you'll be able to watch this presentation or these presentations every day for the next 14 days, which is what I would request to do. And you'll be learning. To the club, the chairman of the PSL, Mr. Farai Jerry, obviously has got a busy schedule these days. I'd like to thank him for sneaking in here to do an introductory presentation. The PSL governors, members of the emergency committee, the club's executives. We don't have legends, but you represent legends. Your other legend is gone. But you are no longer Kapai because of the age and the gray hair. Now the order bicycle. The members of the media, I'm sure your diaries are full for the next 24 days. Life has been made simple for you. You just cut and paste. Then you can then follow up. Don't call Kudzi. Call the respective club chairpersons and media people to find out what they would have done in almost every day. I mean, your diary is full, I'm sure, for the few weeks, but thereafter you have to follow up and then inform Stan how far we have gone in terms of implementing some of the lessons, teachings, guidance that we got today, right from the points of integrity, bringing back the fan to the stadia, safety, infrastructure issues, and most important, building local heroes, that is the players. And then the issues of rights management. I know there are some questions that you didn't ask, but we'll probably try and answer them at the next board meeting. Social media being key, just a summary of some of the points that were raised today. I wanted to say this, but Stan is just stepped out by Tando. Thank you for picking him up at the airport. We have traveled with Stan. I'm sure you enjoyed the trip right from his gate up to when you drop him home. A passionate presenter, I'm sure the energy tells you a lot, right from start up to the end. Same level, vocal, same determination, all questions answered impromptu. And you can tell the man is a very experienced, not only experienced, but he loves the game of football. So for those that have quality players, I guess there will be, since I was asked to give you the contact details, the 7 million, you can look around and see. I know you've finished listening, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kenny. And I also want to thank you guys for coming through. Like what Stan said, this is just the beginning of a very long relationship between the three parties, ZTN, SuperSport, and the Premier Soccer League that you guys represent here today. So there is a message that just came through. All the team representatives who are here, the governors and the media people, you should remain behind in here. I think there's a short meeting, right? There's a short meeting. It won't last more than 20 minutes. But thank you guys for coming, and travel safe wherever you are going soon after this, and God bless you all. So there is tea outside for those who still want to. I know, Andy, you want some coffee. So there is tea outside. But thank you very much, and thank you all for coming.
Equation production, baby.
Sorry, we just want a quick meeting amongst the Premier League clubs, amongst ourselves. So this opportunity we hardly get. So maybe if we could, the other people can just go outside.